let's get started. Good morning, Bjørn. It's great to talk to you again and a privilege for all of us to have you. As you know, we have the CEOs of significantly all the energy companies doing business in Argentina in this event organized by IDEA. And I would like the first question to be, what is the OGCI mission and what is the value added? With what objective 12 of the largest oil and gas companies in the world, including all the majors, got together to collaborate beyond what they can do on their own?
Buenos dias, Daniel, and what a fantastic pleasure for me to be invited to this important event in Buenos Aires. And buenos dias to all of you in the room. And thanks for inviting me. So, you know, I'm leading an organization called the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative. It brings together 12 of the largest oil and gas companies in the world. It's a CEO-led initiative, but have in mind, these companies together produce nearly 30% of the world's oil and gas on a daily basis. So the members include all of the European majors, Shell, BP, Eni, Total, Equinor, Repsol, as well as the largest company in China, CNPC, the giant of the Middle East, Saudi Aramco, the larger brother in South America, Petrobras, as well as Exxon, Chevron, and Occidental. Many of the companies have, of course, a global presence and household names also in Argentina. So these companies joined forces in around 2015. It was running up to the Paris Agreement. And I think the main purpose at the time was to send the important signal to the negotiators at the climate negotiations that this industry recognized the importance of climate change and we would welcome an ambitious Paris Agreement. So it was a joint effort to work together collectively to address the important issue of climate. So basically, we are doing three different things. So first, we have established an investment firm, investing in much needed technologies to accelerate the energy transition. We're also focusing on methane, satellite services, drones, as well as carbon capture and storage and energy efficiency technology. This fund is a $1 billion fund. It's called the OGCI Climate Investment. Perhaps even more importantly, we have decided to set shared targets for how these companies should be successful in the energy transition. So that comes to establishing a way of reporting our own climate footprint, but also setting ambitions to reduce the footprint over time, both when it comes to carbon intensity, flaring, and many other topics. The third thing is not only to look for collective actions. And I know this because many of you in the room are CEOs and you're leading your own company. And it's very helpful to have the opportunity to reflect with peers on how to navigate the very difficult energy transition. So an aim of OGCI is also to help inspire companies to drive actions inside their own companies. Last year, we met a very important milestone. So for the first time ever, all of the companies agreed to say, from now on, we share the aim to have net zero emissions from all our operations. This is what in technical terms is called scope 1 and 2. Basically, the energy that we and the oil and gas industry are using to provide energy. So all the emissions from turbines, compressor, trucks, and including flaring and venting. So that was a very big step. So it was the first time, of course, Aramco said that. It's also the first time the US majors set an ambition. And with that, I think we have set the pace for what is the future look like for this industry. Danielle, the reason why the oil and gas industry cannot escape the issue of climate is that if you look at climate, nearly 2/3 of all of the emissions are coming from the energy system. So basically, if you're going to fix climate, you need to fix the energy system. That's why all of the oil and gas companies in the world would probably have to ask themselves, what does it mean to produce responsibly? How could I be competitive in the future in a world that would like to be low carbon? And what will be the contribution of this industry?
Okay, no, absolutely. And I subscribe to the word collaboration. I don't know if you agree with me, but if oil demand and moreover natural gas demand will remain high for years to come, and these companies in the oil and gas sector will not disappear, they will continue to satisfy market needs. So what role can the oil and gas industry meaningfully play in the transformation of the energy system?
So the energy system is, of course, very delicate. It's a core to how we live our lives. So we need to ensure there is access to energy. And also, of course, we need to ensure that there is access to affordable energy. But on top of that, it is very important to look at what is an acceptable footprint of the energy. So we talked about there is a profound need to change the energy system. And then the question, what role will the oil and gas industry have in that? What role could we possibly play? I have come to the view that among all of the industries in the world, there are probably very few other industries that needs to change more in the coming decades than the oil and gas industry. And I believe that this industry has a tremendous potential to change and be a force, a positive force in the broader economic transformation needed. The reason why I'm mentioning that is that I believe this industry has competence, we have capacity, and we also have the execution capacity and know-how needed to contribute to the change. And the scale of opportunities is massive. So just to give you an example, so roughly speaking, the world total CO2 emission is around, let's say, 45 gigatons per year. And around 33 of that is related to energy. So 13 is related to coal. So basically coal for power production. And I think climate scientists and also the financial market is quite clear on that. So in the longer term, coal needs to go and be replaced by renewables. So it leaves that the oil and gas system is representative of around 20 gigatons of CO2 emissions. So for our industry, I think of this as the 1, 4, and 20 gigaton challenge. The 1 gigaton, Daniel, that's basically the emissions of the OGCI members only, the 12 members of OGCI, a mind-blowing number compared to these only 12 individuals leading these companies, right? So that means the job number 1 is to reduce all your own emissions. And it can be done. So it means electrifications of operations, it means no more flaring, no more venting, it leads to energy efficiency. You will see a massive digitalization going forward to help us achieve that. The 4 gigaton challenge, and that is the total emissions from the oil and gas industry on its own operations, not related to the product. So the 4 gigaton, an incredible number, nearly like 10% of the world's total emissions are coming from this industry in itself. And I would really like us all to make an effort to have as many companies joining the effort to reduce overall emissions. And the business case is also good for that because it's not related to doing only the right thing or focusing on what is needed from a Paris compliant perspective. But I think as we're seeing that over time, the energy mix will shift. And there is a fundamental belief that in order to stay future fit, you don't only need to make sure that you're a low-cost producer, but also you have to make sure that you're a low-carbon producer. So that's a big job ahead of us. And I don't know how this is in Argentina, but if you look at from a more of a balcony perspective, you would see that most oil and gas companies are starting to see themselves as energy companies. Renewables is becoming having a larger and larger share of the annual investment budgets. You're seeing companies investing heavily into new decarbonization solutions to help offer new products to their services. It could be in synthetic fuels, biofuels, but also more complicated carbon capture and storage projects, or even hydrogen in the future. So I think it's a very exciting time. I believe that we're seeing an energy transformation starting to unfold, and it's a really fascinating period of time to see how this is playing out.
Yeah, it's not that different down here. We have in the room the oil and gas companies, most of them that have defined their business as a broader energy business. We have renewable companies, we have biofuel companies, we're going to be discussing hydrogen and so on. So in a way, I think we share with you that we want to be part of the solution and not just part of the problem. So with that in mind, can you share with us examples of actions that can be addressed right away and those that are still in early stages in order to continue to provide safe, clean, efficient, and as you said, affordable energy?
Yeah, Daniel, I think Argentina business as a whole, but also the energy business in Argentina is, of course, very exciting part of the industry. And I think you have a key role to play. The fundamental question to ask yourself is, of course, how do we stay fit for the future? What does spend time understanding what does really a low carbon future mean for our business? And what are the important things to act upon? But also, I think when it comes to climate, it's also important to how we use our voice. How do we show up in the discussion? Are we seen as forward-leaning or only a conservative and a protective industry? So the important question is, what does decarbonization look like for Argentina in 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years perspective? What will be the role of electrification? What role could we envision renewables play a gradual hybridization role, making the problem slightly smaller every day? What is the role of flaring in the industry going forward? Are we still practicing venting of methane and natural gas? How do we report numbers? How do we address the challenges in a transparent way? Do we dare to talk about this openly? To me, those are very important initiatives. I also like to call your attention to one important thing, because when we talk about climate, it's not only CO2 that's important, but methane is also very important. And methane is, of course, the most important component of natural gas. The methane, when you are emitting that, or we have a leakage of natural gas, or it's outside of the pipelines, it's particularly harmful for the climate. So it's nearly 25 times as harmful as CO2. And you know that Argentina and many other countries have signed the global methane pledge to bring overall methane emissions down by around 30% towards 2030. And that cannot be achieved without the oil and gas industry being a party to it, because nearly a quarter of all methane emissions in the world are coming from the oil and gas industry. So I think on methane, we have a particular responsibility to act. And a couple of weeks ago, the CEOs of OGCI came together and launched a new initiative. We call it the Aiming for Zero Methane Initiative. And the starting point was that, why don't we start thinking around methane leaks in the same way as this industry has done around safety and oil spills? Basically having a zero tolerance mindset. in the new initiative, we said, and I think it's a very important statement, we say that we believe that virtually all methane emissions can and should be avoided. We also said that we will try to do all reasonable means to eliminate methane emissions from our industry by 2030. So I think actually that's a challenge I would like to leave you with at the IDEA conference today. And so basically summing up on three things, I think you should consider for the industry in Argentina to think around, and I know you're already underway, but develop a decarbonization roadmap. Because doing this for one company alone is very hard, but doing it for a basin, like for instance, Vaca Muerta, where it's going to be around for many, many years to come, and if it's going to stay competitive, I think you need to have a very good decarbonization roadmap. And get the data, understand your numbers, get reality check on that, maybe even do some satellite monitoring, some aviation to get the numbers right, establish a baseline. That's a wonderful starting point. And the second thing, I think as a group, but also as individual companies, really consider joining the effort to get to zero methane emissions, because that's the most pertinent climate action that this industry can do.
That's great. Those are great tips and challenges for the industry. Let me ask you a final question, Bjørn. If anything, do you think that the invasion of Ukraine has changed in any way the energy transition's agenda in terms of acceleration or deceleration of the speed of the change?
No, so I think it's an absolutely horrible situation with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So, of course, in the shorter term, it has led to a spike in prices and uncertainty around commodities. But for at least for Europe as a whole, it has shown that energy security cannot be taken for granted. The costs are very high for energy in Europe. And I think the longer term effect of this is that the energy transition will accelerate at speed. But it's not going to happen overnight. In energy systems, it's not like you can download a new app and you have a new system. It will require billions of dollars in investment and probably many years to do that. But I think you will have seen, for now, the energy security debate and also the climate debate is going more hand in glove. They are, more similar when it comes to. So I think at least in Europe, you will see accelerated pace to get to renewables and to try to reduce particularly the import from Russian natural gas. Whether that will play out differently in other regions, I don't know. But as a whole, I think the energy transition will be actually accelerated.
That's great. Well, thanks a lot, Bjørn. We believe that what you are doing at OGCI to be really inspiring. And actually, this conversation will trigger several questions for us for the rest of the day. So next time, I hope we meet in person, and thanks again.
Thank you. Gracias. Thank you.